Man of the year, man of the year, man of the year. Welcome to the number one friendship podcast in the country. I'm Aaron Cairo.
I'm Matt Ritter.
And remember to go to manoftheyearpodcast.com to buy our merch and watch our episodes on YouTube. So, Matt, you made an offhand comment the other day that
I
really
make a lot of offhand comments, Cairo.
You never made a comment that was on hand, to be honest.
I don't even know what on hand is.
These guys lives offhand. You go, oh, I'm playing tennis with Shane tomorrow. And I go, Shane, like my Shane? And you're like, yeah. So just for our listeners, longtime listeners will know I'm good friends with my barber, Shane the barber. Matt recently left his longtime barber to go to Shane the barber. And now Matt, and he looks great if you watch our clips on YouTube. And now, by the way, did you play tennis?
Not yet. We're playing next week.
Okay. And now you're moving into full usurp mode.
Matt the Usurper, greatest king in the Middle Ages.
Matt the Usurper is a medieval king. So we've talked a lot about friends of friends as a resource to make friends, right? These are people already vetted that you know and have hung out with. But one thing we haven't talked about is when worlds collide, which I believe was coined in a very good Seinfeld episode, which is when you have a group of friends and then you have a second group of friends, which good for you if that's your case. Do you introduce them to each other? What are the pros and pitfalls?
Good topic. I like it.
I will say you playing tennis with Shane is not quite worlds colliding. That's just a straight old school usurp.
Snatching.
Yeah.
Snatch them up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Snatch them out of your bed.
But have you ever, introduced two worlds to each other?
Well, I just did that. It's funny you say that. I just did that recently. I sort of created a new world out of worlds colliding. So we started a swim class.
You're Thanos.
Thanos, yeah, exactly. I created a new planet. So I was actually thinking about this because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this. So we were doing a swim class for Brenner, and we were kind of like, oh, who should we include as the other kids? Because we could have gone with, okay, new mommy and me friends, but we also have other friends like that we've known for a long time who have babies the same age. And then we also just have neighbors who happen to have kids the same age. So we kind of had like 3 different buckets to choose from. And we're like, you know what? Let's kind of do a little bit of each and create this kind of new friend circle, the swim class circle.
So you drafted them into this new group.
We actually, Jesse and I kind of held a draft. Actually, pretty funny. I wish we would have done it like on a board, but we kind of did each get our own picks.
My first thought is it sounds like some people were left out.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably right. Because it's funny, like some neighborhood people for sure got left out, like whatever. They're just in the neighborhood. You pick and choose. Because we did run into one neighborhood person at a bagel place and they were like, we're thinking of starting a swim class. We'll let you know. And we're like, we're like 6 weeks into our swim class. We're like, yeah, we'll have to think about that. And so those people, yeah, whatever. But of our friend circle, we don't really have that many that were like immediately within 6 months range. It's really got to be. So Jeremy and Haley, we of course brought them in. And then it was more like, of the neighborhood people, who do we like? Who do we want to rope in? We ended up actually going with, to be honest, like proximity. Like we knew they would show because they lived 6 houses away.
Right.
But I also thought they would all get along. So it was part of like, are these people all going to have a good time together? Because the kid swims one at a time and then everybody else is just hanging out.
When I think of like the OG worlds colliding, I think of like you go to college, you make college friends, and then you introduce them to your high school friends. And that's fraught. What's interesting about
it's usually fun. It's usually fun, except when there's like 2 guys that fill the same role and they get a little like, wait, I thought I was the funny guy, or I thought I was there's a little bit of that testosterone bumping.
Yeah, especially when you got Long Island guys meeting fraternity guys. I mean, it can be fraught. It's what's interesting with you, Matt, is that you're pretty much in every circle that I have. You're my childhood friend. You're basically my college friend. You're my work friend.
You got some without me. You have those West Side guys. You got your running people. You got your gym people.
Yeah. What's funny too is that now when I talk about you to, you know, basically someone you don't even know. They know the podcast. They know I could just say Matt, my buddy Matt. Sometimes I just say my partner Matt, which I'm just like, do I need to like?
First of all, my ego. My heart flutters when you say this.
I know. I didn't even want to say anything about it, but I'm just saying Matt. Matt. They go, yeah. I follow you on Instagram.
My heart pitter patters.
So I thought we would do something a little off brand for us and take an early listener question, because I think this person, actually, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, kind of hits a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, might set us up.
Tiro loves an early listener question. It only messes up. It only really messes up our figuring out when to put in our commercials from our sponsors, which everybody gets annoyed by anyway. So it's fine.
Listen, it's going to be an early commercial this time. It's fine. Like, it's and please, what's it called? Solicit our sponsors. What's the word? Solicit? Patronize.
Patronize.
All right. We'll be right back. All right, guys, this is an early asking for a friend. If you have an ethical dilemma or friendship question, send it to us on Instagram, Man of the Year Podcast, and we will answer it on the show. Okay. Dear Matt and Cairo, love the pod. Thank you. But I'm in a bit of a quandary and could use your wisdom like that.
I like quandary.
I have two distinct groups of friends who come from very different worlds. One group consists of old friends from my childhood who are wonderful, but tend to be more traditional and conservative in their views. The other group is from my college years and kind of my professional life, and they're very diverse, open-minded, and you might say progressive. I really want to start introducing them to each other, not the least of which because it would make my social life a lot easier and more efficient. Sounds like me. How do I navigate the situation ethically? Is it fair to bring these groups together, or should I continue to keep my social circles separate to avoid any potential friction?
So many things to think about. First off, I would say a lot of times people keep their friend groups apart. Let's talk about the reasons people keep their friend groups apart for a second. Yeah. I think one of them is a little bit like they like to have them separate so that they have these different sort of buckets where they can go to, and they go, oh, well, I have this group that I can do this with, and I can have this group that I can do this with. And it kind of is more of a broader circle. When we look at somebody's social fitness, we like to have a diversity of friend areas, right? So if you just have one group, then you're sort of limited generally to like one activity or one sort of type of interaction that can get, I guess, I don't want to say redundant, but it can, feel a little stale sometimes. So I think for the freshness of it, it is healthy to have separate circles. So I guess the question is, why do you think most friend groups, why do people keep them separate? I think there's a little bit of a selfishness to it sometimes too, is that they don't want to do what I do to you. They don't want to let people usurp.
By the way, you make a great point. I don't know if we've even talked about in the pod, which it is nice to have a couple distinct friend groups, and you can, be a little bit of your, different in other groups. There's not as much baggage, as we talk about when I hang out with you. If I say anything that I wouldn't have said in second grade, you basically punch me in the stomach.
Right. Exactly. and vice versa. No, and I want to say this to this point because I recently hosted an event at the house, like a charity thing. And honestly, it was deliberate that I didn't really invite any of you guys. Partially because I didn't want to make you pay like a lot of money to come to a brunch at my house. It just felt a little silly. But I have to be honest, selfishly, there's this like other circle that I formed there, and I just kind of wanted to like have that for me and Jess, and I think that's okay. So I just want to like say that publicly on the pod. Like I don't really feel guilty about it, but I do want to clarify. It wasn't like, it's not an insult to my other, to all of my friends. I think a lot of people have to sort of start reframing things in their head. I mean, I think it's good to communicate it. Maybe we didn't communicate it beforehand, so that people aren't, if your friends are sensitive, You don't want them
Right.
to feel slighted or jilted, but it's okay for you to have these different groups, and it's okay to keep them separate if you feel like, hey, I want to just, have this thing for us that we do that's separate from this hangout. I think that's
Yeah, I
perfectly
like
okay.
it.
So I just want to say,
Yeah,
I
I
think Hero and
support.
I are in agreement.
Yeah, no, I support your separate groups. I didn't want to go anyway. And
No, but should I have told everybody? I mean, should I have like in advance said, hey, I'm doing this thing? What do you think?
I personally don't too, but our advice is often like better to communicate than not.
Yeah,
Like, what do you lose by saying that? I think you were fine.
yeah.
Like, if it was like something that you thought we'd be interested in or something, maybe, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
You
So
you have
anyway,
to
back
let,
to our
yes, you have to be able to have your own life.
yeah, right.
Um, Now my first guess, because I like to guess how you're going to answer a question, is I don't know if it's. I think it may be a woman. I think she's assuming a lot.
In the question, there were a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, that these two groups of people won't get along. Now, by the way, they're her friends, so like she probably knows them, but you never know.
I agree because she said, "Is it ethical?" As in bringing them together is going to cause all this friction, and I agree. That's a big assumption, but you know, in her defense, like you said, she does know her friends, right? So if you know that you've got, and it sounded like maybe there's some political stuff under the surface there.
Hmm.
Look, I'm a proponent of bringing people together of different viewpoints. I think it's healthy. I think our country's in, where we are because we have so little of that anymore.
And
And I
if you
think
got,
having it be in a friendly environment where you get to like this person because they're a friend of a friend first, you know, and
mhm.
share some sort of common ground, I think it's a great way to bridge some of those gaps. I don't
uh,
think you should bring up the thing that they're on opposite viewpoints of early on in the hangout.
I mean, let me, yes, and you. I think it'd be a great idea to get them together, and you should do something that has nothing to do with politics or whatever it is they're conservative or like if get everybody drunk or something
Right.
like it has nothing to do with
Go to the
anything.
movies together, a big movie and dinner hang, like something
Yeah.
fun. But by the way, I have a question about that. Do you think option A, bring them all two giant worlds colliding, or option B, like slowly but surely bring one person in, like test the waters?
Mm.
Is there an option to do that just to
That
kind of feel it out and then maybe have the message disseminate like, oh, these guys are great. You should meet them next time. Like slowly filter them in versus going, hey, the Jets and the Sharks, go. You're buddies now.
I mean, like I like to have a birthday party which brings all the worlds together in
Yeah.
one fell swoop. I mean, but our friends are, for better or worse, a little bit more homogenous. um that's a great question. Here's the thing, though. If you bring one person, that's so much more intimate and like not stressful, but like pressure,
Yeah.
like as opposed to
But it may, or maybe smaller, maybe one from the other, are there other ways to do it other than just having your entire worlds collide?
right. I don't know. Part of me just says pull the band-aid
Let's do it.
off. How bad could it be?
Well, here's where it usually happens for men: bachelor parties. Bachelor
Right.
parties are usually the time as an adult where you're suddenly like thrown in to the deep end with three guys from your buddy's work or college that you don't know that well, and then you get to know them really well. But it's a very fun environment, so it's usually the easiest way for their worlds to collide.
Also, I mean, guys tend to be more agreeable with each other,
Yeah,
right? Or is that
maybe
just
something to that.
yeah,
Now there may be something to that for
yeah.
sure.
Um,
Um,
that is true. A bachelor party is just like, it's like your 5 high school friends, your 3 college friends, your 2 work friends, your random cousin.
right. But at bachelorette parties, I have found just from experience through talking to my wife, my sister, other women, like there does tend to be a little more friction between groups that don't know each other.
Right.
I think that's a stereotype we could potentially make without getting ourselves canceled.
Yeah. A group outing. Yeah, that's totally true. Um, by the way, is it ethical? I mean, I don't know this. I know we get ethical questions. I don't know if this is ethics is even involved here.
No, I agree. I guess the question, first of all, is why? If you're
Well,
feeling you want to do it and it'll enhance your life or their lives in some way, then of course, like what is the purpose of it? Are you excluding them because of like, if it's making your life harder to exclude them, like, let's have a second look at this.
what's funny, she says, it would make my social life a lot easier and more efficient, which is something that I would say.
Right. Right. So this is very a you kind of thing of like, all right, I'm going out once on a Saturday.
Right.
I have a free time
Yeah.
and I've gotten calls from both these people. Why don't I just get us all together?
Yeah.
Sounds like she's got a huge, healthy circle. First off, like who has two big circles? It's great.
Yeah. I think she should just try it. Like, really, what could the worst thing that could
The
happen?
worst thing is if the two of them have a blow up fight and they're like, I hate that person. Why are you friends with that person? And I think that's what she's really worried about. So I actually want to say I'm cutting through a little bit of their psyche. I don't know this person, but I think there's a fear. People judge you by who you spend time with, right? And so if suddenly these people who see her one way as this progressive person, then she's around these more traditional person. They're like, oh, is that who she really is? Or is she pretending when she's around us? So I think there's a lot of that overthink. Like we assume that people are going to start thinking different things of us if they meet our other friends. I think that's on them. If your friend's going to be judgy because you have a friend that has a different viewpoint than them, like maybe that's not really, maybe you're maturing into a different phase of your life where that's not how you want to live. I think that's something that's happened to me recently too.
What do you think about warnings? Like, hey,
Helpful. I think it's helpful.
we're getting together. Like, listen, like, A, don't bring up X. B, like, they're just a little, whatever. And by the way, if you don't want to come, you don't have to come.
I think it's super helpful. I like it. I mean, honestly, what's the downside of that?
The downside is you are you're sort of prejudging sort of how someone's going to react to somebody else.
Your friends, like we said, your friends, where they're coming from. If you think it's warranted to give them warning, like, hey, just these people are like not probably what you're used to, but they're really good people. Give them a positive affirmation about them. I mean,
it's
like they're really great.
Yeah. When you're meeting some of my friends, I go, listen, Matt's coming. He makes some real offhand comments.
This isn't even true, by the way. You're the offhand guy. That's the funny part.
No.
Offhand Cairo. That's literally tattooed on your chest.
No. Come on. How many times are you like, Cairo? So I said this. I'm like, oh, why did you say that?
No. Yes. If we go tit for tat.
Foot in mouth?
Cairo, you think of me as like a teenager. I'm a married dad who doesn't say offhanded things. Like you're thinking of me in my 20s. That's you. This is typical Cairo projection. I'm very easy to take anywhere because I try to be very astute about social interactions. Cairo just runs off, pops off at the mouth, and he thinks, oh, Matt does that too because he's 17 still. Like, no, man, I don't do that.
Listen, we're not going to get into it now because I don't want to embarrass you, but I've heard many a foot in the mouth story. Recent, Matt.
Never happened. Never happened.
Never happened. Anyway, I think a good warning. So potential options are warning. Number 2, doing a smaller group first. Number 3, having the event happen somewhere that is politics are not going to come up.
What if they do? I mean, so what? I think that's the other part of like, so what? So what's going to happen? Like you said, what's the worst? What's less than the worst case scenario? So there's no blow up fights. So what? So they disagree. I mean,
right.
Are your friends supposed to be in agreement on everything?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's uncomfortable for you, the question asker, but.
Right. Why does that make you uncomfortable? That, if you're friends with people from both sides of political spectrum or ideological spectrum or whatever, sounds to me like you have a diverse array of opinions. And if you do, then you're like, honestly, if you're a person who has friends across these spectrums of ideologies, I think that's great. But then you should also be open to the idea that you're going to be around disagreements sometime, unless you really want to just stay in your, like these little different echo chambers and never have them merged just for your own comfort.
Yeah.
I guess that's fine. You can keep doing that, but it sounds like it's what she said, inefficient and like making her life harder.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I think, do we answer the question?
I think take a shot. Carol wants you to take a big swing. I say, invite 2 of each together for a little dinner gathering. See how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit of your plan is that eliminates the outliers, right? Because I bet you in the group, everyone is probably pretty agreeable, and then there's one wild card. There's one Cairo or one Matt, depending on what you.
Right, let's pick one standard deviation from each side.
Yeah, let's keep it. Is it within the bell curve?
Within the bell curve.
Within the bell curve. All right, let us know what happens. This was asking for a friend. If you have a friendship question, send it to us on Instagram, and we will answer it on the show. All right, Matt. So let's get back to worlds colliding. I realize that we actually haven't talked about friends of a friend. Friends of friends. What do we say? Friends of friends.
Friends of friends.
Friends of friends in a while. I've had some anecdotal conversations recently with people who moved to a new place and they're like, I don't know anybody there. And like, what's our first piece of advice? Ask your friends if they know anybody there.
Right. Let people know you're in the market for a new friend. Do you know anybody in Seattle?
But I still sort of get pushback. I don't know. They don't know anybody. I'm like, well, just ask.
Right. You're getting pushback. You've gotten recent pushback from people.
Yeah, just there's no way anybody knows anybody in Seattle. Or I asked, they don't know, or I don't know. People just seem to be like that's too vulnerable, maybe to ask.
Well, your option is just staying lonely. So take our advice. Take a small chance.
Yeah, you got to do something.
Also, just again, it goes back to: do you want to start with total stranger? Because that's the other option. You're gonna have to make friends somehow. Right. We're giving you the easy way, the lubricated way.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're getting that much pushback on it.
I think it's possible. What if the people they're asking don't want to do the invite? So.
So you're saying, or maybe that's why they're worried. They're worried their friends are going to be like, "Nah, I don't want to introduce this person to anybody."
That, or what if the person in Seattle doesn't want, like, every once in a while, somebody like, Kara, my friend's moving to LA.
And you don't volunteer to.
Well, I know we're professional.
Because I get that a lot too. I usually am like, all right, give my number.
Yeah. I usually do the same thing. Give him Matt's number.
No, look, I mean, I think you're probably right. There probably is a Carol element of it of like that person's busy or they just are not in the friend making mode themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, because it takes a generous person on the other end of that, an un-Carol like person.
Well, listen, my New Year's resolution is to honor the inner circle. I'm trying to honor the resolution.
Agreed. No, you're not obligated to, to be the host city, person.
Right.
I think that friend who's choosing people should think about that. If they know more than one person in LA, like pick somebody that might be inclined to take them to coffee.
Right. Or talk to the person first before you make.
Well, yeah. Carol loves a double opt-in.
Everything's got to be double opt-in. Okay. Let me get
what happened. You were so mad about, what were you so mad about? A dating thing? Somebody.
Yes. A non-consensual setup. When someone's like, hey, Carol, you should go with my friend Lisa. Here's her number. I'm like, I have 1,000 questions. First of all, does she know that she's being set up? Does she know who I am? Did you tell her I'm texting her?
But presumably that person did get the permission from Lisa to give out her number.
Correct. Presumptions make an ass out of you and me. You'd be surprised. People are
you saying, are you saying that there are people going around just giving out people's numbers without their permission at all? I doubt it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Or they have a very soft, like, oh, I've got a buddy. And they're like, oh, okay. You know how many times this happened with Theo's girlfriend. I get the number, then I text, and they don't even respond to the first text. Ooh. You know this happened. Well, that was one time I said, let's hop on the phone.
No, yeah. You immediately were like, hey, I'm outside your house. I'm here to pick you up on our date. And she's like, who is this?
It doesn't work either way. If I send a nice text, like, it's just.
She wrote back, to whom it may concern, pass.
I'm just saying everything, but you would agree on a 75,000 foot level, dating, not dating, platonic, not platonic, everything should be double opt-in
I
consensually.
agree theoretically, but I think the issue with that is that some people are just that's too deep for a lot of these relations, and then you're missing out on potential. You're not always going to get that. Like sometimes people are like, "Oh yeah, if you know anybody, just have them call me or whatever," like then they don't like want to have to put because then you're asking the middleman to do more work than they should
Yes, the
need to do.
middleman should be doing more work.
No, I don't totally agree with that. I'm like they're doing you a favor. But I agree
It's
that it's the most efficient way for it to work is if they do that work.
right. I listen, their heart is in the right place, but their brain is
Effort
not.
level is low. Their
Yeah,
heart's in the
just
right place, but their effort level is very low.
right.
They're
I'm
willing to
trying to
do the
think.
bare minimum for you and
Right.
that other person, but at least that's better than nothing. So let's just put it in friendship terms. If somebody texts me like I have a friend moving to LA, can I give him your number? I'm like, fine. I don't ask the details about the person. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to know very much.
I think I want to know.
Yeah, you want to know too the deep cuts.
Well, I mean, it's like,
I usually go, how can I help?
I mean, you're
Because I want
nice.
to
I
know
mean,
how I can be helpful at least. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point?
right. But don't you see that the middle person, did they reach out to you because this person's trying to be a writer or because you're the only person who returned, like, did they
Usually it's a
do
writer.
any,
Usually it's a writer. So at least usually it makes
okay,
sense.
and that's okay. But just like, did they give any thought to it? I just feel like the middle person, just like 10% more
Right,
thought.
but the
Maybe
thought
I'm
is usually right. But here's the thing: the thought is just that. So like usually when somebody moves and they give them my number, it's because they're a writer. Usually when somebody gives you a girl's number, it's because you're single and they're single. That's
right.
it.
But yeah, I know,
That's
but I
it.
need, yeah. And I'm just saying I need 10% more than that.
Okay.
Because then the middle person, if we go out or if she doesn't respond, goes, I don't know what happened. Well, because you put in no work, and this is what you
Right.
get.
So let's just take this to our audience poll. Does a setup require a double opt-in? Can you just give the number to the other person? Like, what do we think is required there? Please
Anybody
message
answer?
us.
Yes,
Please message us what you think. Because
but
Cairo and I and another good friend of ours who set him up, he gave her the third degree. And I defended her because I was like, dude, come on. She went out of her way already for you.
she didn't really go out of her way. I mean, she went
I know.
basically the way she was already going.
She
But
went, she deviated. She took one turn.
Yeah.
You took one slight deviation.
I just want to say, because part of this I was half joking on the friendship of it all, because again, if you are moving to a new city, you should be asking your friends if they know one in the city. And you're right, Matt. I was exaggerating a little bit. For the bar for friendship is always lower than the bar for romantic setup.
Yeah.
So if you can just get in the door and someone's gonna, ask, get coffee with someone, that you should be A, helping, B, facilitating, and C, taking them up on it.
Yeah. What do you think? Just back to the worlds colliding. Like, what do you think is the best type of event to do for like when you're bringing people in together? Is it a small dinner? Is it like a party, like your birthday thing? Like, I know you go big with the birthday thing, but is that the best first intro? Is the intimate one better?
That's a great question. My gut says I would not do dinner because that's super intimate. You're trapped there forever. You're sitting. Uh, you know, I like kind of a party, a bar, if the people are drinking.
Less pressure.
Something yeah, less pressure. So something loose where people kind of are coming and going. Because if it's a thing where you're static, you're just
I
there.
like a sporting event. You know me, I always like tickets, but I always love that because then you're like, you can move around, people can switch
Someone you don't
seats,
know.
like a concert. No, I'm saying if there's worlds colliding, I'm saying like I
Oh.
feel like that's a good one. If you're gonna do a small one, like four people go to a concert or a game where you don't have to always be talking. Like there's something else going on, but then you kind of like get a little bit of. I feel like that's how men like to divulge facts a little bit, like play tennis together, for doubles, something where you're just like in between. You kind of start talking a little bit.
As we know, men socialize shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah,
And the problem is with a game,
watching a game.
it's almost not what I mean. There's almost not enough interaction. Like the guy 3 seats down from you barely talk to him. I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like that's a good first foray, though. I'm just saying, like, if you're
Yeah.
afraid to like deep dive it, feels like go watch a finals game, like go watch the NBA finals together. Go watch Sunday football. Invite somebody
Right.
over for a Sunday, barbecue. Small one.
Yeah. Yeah. Barbecues are good. I like a barbecue.
Yeah. Summer tips. Anything else?
I think we pretty much covered it. I think you would agree. I don't want to make another presumption that we should probably err on the side of trying to introduce the groups. Now, you can have distinct groups, and I actually really like what you said earlier about it's healthy. But I think they should have met so you could at least have a common thread when you
Yeah.
talk to them.
Yeah. It's funny because this is a lot more complicated than I initially thought. Because now I'm thinking about things I've done recently where I have kept things separate, which is not like this isn't like me, like I'm just saying, I feel like you're allowed to evolve your views and you're allowed. I just think, again, there's a little bit of a selfishness you're allowed to have in crafting your own, whatever is best for your social fitness and your social universe. And if sometimes you feel the need to have barriers, I think that's okay. But just ask yourself why you're doing it. If you're being if you're being exclusionary towards somebody because you're like, I don't want this person to be friends with this person because I want to spend time with them. I don't know. I'm a little leery of that sort of behavior, but I think on some levels it's okay to have those boundaries. Because we have people from all different circles, and if you want that to be your whatever crew and this is your ever crew. But I think my overall take is it's nicer when they all know each other and at least are friendly towards each other and have a familiarity. So they're like fringe friends at the very least. And obviously, who am I to talk? Because I've literally usurped all of Cairo's friends.
On that note, can I give a quick shout to Shane the Barber?
Please.
I'm meaning to tell you this. I think you really like this. So, Shane the Barber is our buddy, and he has allowed us to use his barbershop for our holiday party last year. It was great. He's just a good guy. And now you're playing tennis with him. That's great. And he said something to me the other day. I totally forgot to tell you. He was like, "Oh, do you want to use the shop for like, another event or something? Like, you want to record the podcast here?" He was really like,
Ooh.
and I was like, "No, like then you gotta like, rearrange everything, and I don't want to put you out." And he just goes offhand. He goes, "Well, what do you mean, your family?"
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, very so touched. It was such a nice sentiment.
Yeah, that's
And
not a hard one.
uh,
This is every time I say we're Long Island swill, and you're like, how
right.
dare you? And then you're like, sentient, sentiment.
It is a tough word, but I appreciate it. That's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to say.
No, that's very sweet. Can I give a shout out and sort of my faux pas? I mean, we should, first of all, let's back up before we go. I just hostile about this. Audience, please message us. Who do you think makes more offhanded remarks, me or Cairo? We'll see whether our friends or strangers, see how they feel. I did make a mistake. I want a correction on the pod. I said it was Caitlin Clark who took on Steph Curry at the 3-point contest in Indianapolis. And I was there, but my seats weren't like that close that I could actually see anybody's faces. And you can't really hear the announcer. So I just thought it was Caitlin Clark, I guess. But it was actually Sabrina Ionescu. So I apologize to Sabrina. And thank you, Lisa, for pointing that out. She also pointed out that there was a woman that we couldn't think of that you were trying to think of in the WNBA.
I'm sorry. Are you going to also apologize to me?
Fine. All right. Also to Cairo.
Because during the episode, I said you're wrong.
All right. Also to Cairo. Karen called us out. The whole Cairo family. Karen called it out.
Oh,
I know. I was trying to humble brag about how I was at the All-Star game, and I got the most biggest event there wrong. So shameful. Wait, who? What was the WNBA player?
It was Cameron Brink.
I apologize to Cameron Brink too, and go WNBA.
Yeah, I apologize. Me a couple to you, to Karen, to Sabrina, to all these people.
We're gonna go to a WNBA game this season because we support women's sports.
Yes, we do. All right. That's our show. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Always remember, be good to yourself, be good to your friends. Love you, buddy.
Love you, buddy.